back to Cross Stitch the Globe. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Allison.
And this is a channel about cross stitch. Today we're going to be talking about alternatives to DMC floss. This is a beginner tutorial. We put these out on Thursdays. They're mostly for people who buy from our Etsy shop. But everyone's welcome, and if you are an experienced stitcher who has something to say on the topic, let's say you really love using an alternative to DMC, we would love to have you
share your knowledge.
Share your knowledge in a comment. Let's make the comments like a really resourceful place for beginner stitchers.
Yeah.
And if you are a beginner or you are new to our channel, we come out with 3 different types of videos. Tutorials like this come out on Thursdays. On Mondays, we have deep dives that we call, well, we don't call. The world, if you are new to the world of cross stitch on YouTube, you may not have seen a floss tube before. Floss tube episodes are deep dives into people's personal stitchings. Ours come out every other Monday, where we talk about what we're working on and what we finished and what our plans are, and they're super fun. And we also mention a lot of other floss tubers, so if you don't know any floss tubers, definitely subscribe and check that out. And then in between those episodes, we come out with long deep dives on topics that we just don't have room for anywhere else. Like we're about to start a free pattern series, or by this time, I think by this time it's still going to be about to, but it might have already come out. We're just finishing a most expensive cross stitch series.
That was interesting.
How to make needle minders, lots of different fun topics that just, if we put them in a floss tube, would make them 2 hours long. So
and they already are 2 hours long.
We cut out so much. I edit out so much. So, okay, so today, our last video, we talked about DMC. And most patterns, well, not most, but a lot of beginners who buy pattern for the first time, where it's your job to go get all the materials, you didn't just buy a kit, will call for DMC. But let's say you don't love DMC for some reason. I know usually that's more of an advanced stitcher will decide they prefer a different type of stranded cotton to DMC. Or let's say you're in a place where DMC is not easy to get. You don't have a store where they sell it. You got to buy something online. And I know in different parts of the world, DMC, we've asked before, DMC can vary in price, and there are places where alternatives to DMC can be less expensive. So what are some of the more popular DMC alternatives out there? Well, Allison, I don't stitch a lot in DMC alternatives, but Allison is using one for this beautiful project. Now this is called Stitch for Pride, and this is by D20 Stitches, and she decided to do it all in Cosmo. And why did you decide to do this in Cosmo floss?
I wanted it to be special. I wanted it to be different. It was kind of going to be an experience because it's one every month, and so I wanted each month to be its own unique little happiness for me. So I tried it something different for me. I am a DMC user, but when I saw the variegation on how many different variegated Cosmos
is that the Sriracha bottle?
No, I haven't used this one yet.
Oh, okay.
So this one's probably gonna be next one.
This is so pretty.
I don't know. I thought, why not? It's so
why
fun.
not do something different?
Yeah, do something fun and different.
And so Cosmo is a DMC. It's very similar to DMC in terms of colors that they have available. It is also a 6-stranded cotton floss. If you don't know about strands, we just put out tutorials. I keep showing my very big finger. We we just put out several tutorials about what is stranded floss and how to separate it. But for Cosmo, it comes from Japan. For us, it's more expensive than DMC. Where you live, it might not be. That's the thing, is some of these have relative prices based on availability. And some people will choose to kit up projects in Cosmo instead of DMC. For us, we can buy almost the full line of Cosmo and Valdani flosses at our quilt shop, at a local quilt store. And I think that is not common, but more common than maybe I realized before, that some stores will just be well, we're not going to carry DMC, but we'll carry Cosmo.
I didn't know that. This is the only time I've ever seen Cosmo. Was at the quilt store. I thought it was so fun to have an alternative.
Yeah. Well, another alternative that some people can find at their craft store is Anchor. And I think Michael's sometimes carries it.
Ours doesn't. Ours is just DMC.
But I know people have bought Anchor at Cosmo. I don't know if they still sell it anymore.
We're in Oklahoma, where it's kind of one box store has taken over. So we just get the one store.
So with Anchor, people will sometimes kit up whole projects in Anchor, especially when it's easy for them to find. I don't know relative pricing, and I know DMC just bought it.
Yes, I heard that.
So we don't know what the future of Anchor is going to be, but
Yeah.
Anchor is very common for you to hear people say, like, I choose to use Anchor Black instead of DMC 310. There are different theories about whether or not it gets better coverage, and that's kind of a personal preference. But you may hear someone say that they've kitted up their whole project in the called for DMC, subbing Anchor Black. And so if you find the coverage isn't there enough and you don't want to just add another strand, then you might look into subbing out Anchor Black, because we know some people choose to do that, and some people do that with great results, and some people don't feel like it was worth it, but they wanted to try it, so that's something that people do.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a stitcher local to us. I think her Instagram Flosstube is Mrs. Jones Stitches, and she doesn't stitch in DMC. She stitches entirely in color and cotton.
Okay.
I've seen people on Flosstube who stitch only in Cosmo. I've seen people on Flosstube who stitch only in Fancy Floss and never use DMC. And if you want to do that, there are several brands of Fancy Floss, like General Arts or Classic Colorworks. But when people do that, they tend to be people who have color and cotton subscriptions, and color and cotton is not, you can't get a subscription to it right now. But you're going to visit when you go in.
Yeah, I can't wait.
To St. Louis.
It's in St. Louis.
So when people choose to use like DMC alternatives, they usually are looking for, well, okay, they may switch out the DMC for one project into something they like. Like I have a bunch of, I have a big silk collection, and so I might say like, oh, I'm going to swap all these DMCs for silk from my stash. But when people systematically decide that they're not going to use DMC, they usually are going to either Anchor or Cosmo or CXC.
CXC
is big in Europe because
Europe,
it's cheaper in Europe than DMC is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it though. We don't.
I have friends who use mostly CXC because it is cheaper. It's cheaper than DMC where they live, and they've had no problems with it. They really like it.
And so if you're in Europe and you're like, I want to know an alternative to DMC because this DMC is like €2, whereas here it's 54 cents, so less than half a euro.
Yeah.
Which is a huge difference for how much a project would cost.
Yeah.
You may want to look into CXC or other. You may also want to look up like local to you Flosstube channels and Instagram accounts and see what they're using, because they might know. Because like we know what we know from like, you have a lot of European stitcher friends. We watch European Flosstube, but the individual economics of like what costs what where is so specific and based a lot on also like how much things are taxed and things like that. So
where they produce.
And like is DMC a loss leader at a craft store because they really want you to buy something else? Like there's a lot of things that go into it. If you are wanting to purchase, like let's say you don't have like a local craft store or an LNS that's going to help you figure out, well, the craft stores are going to help you figure out, they're just going to have a display. But, or a local LNS, a local needlework shop to help you figure out what to buy. And you want to use one of the like main websites that like stitchers purchase on, like 123 Stitch. The only like real alternative to DMC that's in that like inexpensive, like stranded cotton basic variety is Anchor. They don't carry CXC or any of the others, but they do carry like so many kinds of floss and so many kinds of DMC, but like they really only, after that you're going up to more expensive.
And there's a reason. I mean, those variated flosses cost more because they take time.
Yeah.
They're individually dyed.
They're dyed and they're dyed like DMC and Cosmo and CXC are meant to be like, everyone can use them and they're meant to have like the same.
They're
like,
color fast.
Yeah, they're meant to be like very specifically like
Yeah.
the same color every time. And when DMC has to change the color, it's because like environmental regulations changed or something. But you know, if Classic Colorworks comes out with a skein of a beautiful color and then their formula slightly changes over time, well, people know that that might happen. So there's when people are looking, just they don't want DMC because of price or preference, they want something similar. Like that's not always easily available. I know a lot of people sell CXC on Etsy, and I think there's a few like smaller online needlework shops based in the UK that do like CXC bundles and stuff. But I don't think there's anywhere new where I could walk into a store and buy it here.
Definitely not here. Not in Oklahoma.
No.
Because we've looked for cross stitch everywhere.
Because we have this channel and it's fun for us to try different things. It'd be fun to try.
It would be great.
different things
Yeah.
if there was something else, but
I haven't found it.
no, not here. And it is fun when you hear about like, because we asked one time like how much does DMC cost where you are, and a few British Flosstubers, or not British viewers, did say that CXC was much less expensive for them where they are. So if you're looking for an alternative based on cost, I would definitely look around and see what people in your geographic region are using as an alternative, as that will have so much of an effect on what the cost is.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few places I would stay away from. I don't even like to buy craft store brand floss.
Oh, I know.
Like those bundles, I avoid them.
You avoid the bundles too? I don't know. I haven't used them. I don't generally like color, do my own conversions, which you would need to, on something that's not called for, because DMC is usually called for.
Well, and also like
everything.
maybe per skein you would save money in buying like 100 pack of like craft store brand
But you
or whatever.
really have to know how to convert things yourself.
But yeah, you don't really, if it's not what you need in your pattern, is it going to really save you money in the long run to have, because to have all those extra skeins and then you have to convert them yourself or like have an online conversion. Some off brands will use DMC numbers, but how close the numbers are,
you would have to have a DMC colored chart.
Yeah. And so at that point, you're probably not in a beginner tutorial. You're more like, okay, I've experimented and now I want to go my own way.
Right.
In which case, if that's you, let us know what your findings are.
Yeah.
I also avoid buying them online, buying any floss online whose brand I don't really know about. It's just not.
Well, you don't know what you're getting.
You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if the color is really right. You also don't know what the quality is. The color going to run? Is the floss going to break?
Is it going to be all fuzzy?
Mm-hmm.
You just things you have. If you're willing to try it out, sure.
Yeah.
If that's
when looking
saving
for
money is your option, maybe not.
Yeah. When looking for an alternative to DMC, I really try to look for like approved, like quality, and then also DMC is buying some of those companies up, so we don't know what the future of those things. If you made it to this point in the video, leave that emoji of the little like two dancing girls, because it's DMC and her little cousin. And if you do prefer an alternative to DMC, list it in the comments and tell why. And that way people who are coming looking for them will know like different ideas in the future. And if you are not subscribed, especially if you're a beginner and you've never dipped your toe into Flosstube before, we would love to have you.
Join us on Monday. It's crazy.
Join us on Monday. We'd love to have you. And thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.